Hey guys, what's up? More album reviews. We are getting closer and closer to the end of the list of the albums. In fact, today there will be two album reviews. The one I'm doing and then one later in the day. The one I'm doing now, Tile Below, this is a highly anticipated album for the year that is now finally going to come out next week on CD, but Nuclear Blast put out the official sample on their channel, which I recommend. If you like rock and metal music, subscribe to Nuclear Blast Records' YouTube channel. They have some great bands like Machine Head, Testament, Carcass, Accept, so many bands. And ironically, speaking of Machine Head, the album review you see in the title, this is the review of Machine Head's newest release, Bloodstone Diamonds. For those who don't know who Machine Head are, brief history lesson. Machine Head is a groove/thrash metal band that formed in the early 1990s after guitarist and singer Robb Flynn left the Bay Area thrash metal band Violence, who is one of the most underrated thrash bands of all time. But Robb Flynn left the band to pursue his own band, which was Machine Head, which have some backgrounds in thrash, but they don't really play thrash metal too much. There's just a lot more of like metallic grooves going throughout their music, with some more kind of extreme metal styles to it with the vocals at times. But Machine Head have been through some changes throughout their careers. They started out as a really brutal groove metal band. Then in the late 90s, early 2000s, they started to quote-unquote sell out by playing nu metal or rap metal during that time period. But then they went back to their old school sound in like the middle of the 2000s when they went back to their groovy style by incorporating more elements of thrash metal into the music. That led to was considered a heavy metal classic of the 2000s back in 2007, The Blackening, which I've heard people said it was like the master of puppets of today's generation. Then they had an album of 3 years ago called Unto the Locust that was not as good as The Blackening, but still very good. But now we're going to see if Bloodstone and Diamonds can live up to those kinds of expectations. So we kicked off the album with the song Now We Die, which was a little over 7 minutes long. That song was just a great way to kickstart this entire album. I just thought that was just a great song. I loved some of the riffing ideas that were being played throughout the entire track. Then whenever you get into songs like Ghosts Will Haunt My Bones, Night of Long Knives, and Sail Into the Black, as well as Eyes of the Dead. All of those tracks just had something unique about it, particularly Sail Into the Black, which is 8.5 minutes, the longest track of the album. There was some acoustic guitars and clean singing going on during like the first portion of the track in the first half, but the second half of the song was when it got really, really heavy, with some awesome stuff at the very end. And Eyes of the Dead was just one of those very dark songs with some elements of atmosphere throughout. In Comes the Flood, Damage Inside, and Game Over were all great tracks. The song Damage Inside, you want to talk about atmospheric passages? Wow. The shortest song of the album had like nearly 3.5 minutes, and Robb Flynn doing all clean singing on that song. He's got a good voice to him, and this song, I mean, with it being softer, but it was just still a hell of a song. I really enjoyed how he was able to showcase what he can do outside of just the typical rah, rah, rah kind of vocal approach that he has chops with not only on his guitar, but with his voice, he can sing. And I tell you, even though I thought the instrumental portions, it was very good, but the messages throughout it, it was an instrumental, but it had some like spoken word stuff from like storytelling. And the song Imaginal Selves, which is talking about like talking about stuff like the decline of civilization and stuff like that, and saying how we need to fix things if we want this planet to stay alive. I thought that was really cool what they were able to do with that track, but then the closer, Take Me Through the Fire, wow. One hell of a song to close an album. I mean, just some of the riffing and just the performance of each band member, from Robb Flynn to fucking Phil Dimmel and all those guys. All those guys just did a hell of a job with the album, with their performances. But I tell you, the big thing that I think separated this album from some of the albums I have reviewed this year, aside from maybe like the Accept Blind Rage album, is the lyrics. This is a lyrical masterpiece. I think some of like the stories and within the lyrics on some of these tracks just really get your mind thinking and get your imagination going. Like in songs like Killer and Kings. Despite the song itself, it was pretty good, but just the lyrics, wow. And Eyes of the Dead, Ghosts Haunt My Bones, Damage Inside, just a bunch of great lyrics that were written throughout this whole entire endeavor. I tell you, they were just very, very well done. Really well done. The production on this album was absolutely tremendous. I really, really liked how each instrument was prominent and the vocals were prominent all together on the same level. Now, some people may say, oh, it's too clean, but if you think about it, it just really enhances the sound. You know, I mean, it was produced by Robb Flynn, but mixed by Andy Sneap, the masterful Andy Sneap. And yes, I get it. Some people say, oh, albums like this, they sound too clean. But if you think about it in reality, it just enhances everything. And that's why I think Andy Sneap is the best modern metal producer ever. He's just done an incredible job for bands. Like whenever he's engineering, mixing, or producing, or mastering, he's a master at it. He's done stuff with Arch Enemy and Killswitch Engage, Accept, Megadeth, Carcass, to Machine Head, just wow, so many bands, and he makes those albums, make sure they sound great and sound heavy. And that's exactly what he does. But overall, this album was unbelievable. This was a great album. Do I think it's up to Blackening standards? Not really, but you don't have to be better than an album like The Blackening. You could just come close and still have a great album. And that's a prime example of what Machine Head's able to do. While they may not be able to top Blackening, because I think that album is an untouchable achievement, but they can come close and still put out some great stuff. But that first half of the record was just masterful stuff. While the second half definitely had great stuff, there were a couple tracks that kind of took some of the, like the train was starting to fall off the tracks. Just a tiny bit, but then some songs put it back into place, if you really want to go with metaphors or whatever. But great album here. 9 out of 10. This is easily going to make the album of the year list. But anyways, what did you guys think of Machine Head's Bloodstone and Diamonds? Let me know in the comments section below. And you people wondering what's the next album I'm going to review today? Cavalier Conspiracy. I can't wait to explore that. But anyways, see you later today.